Hmm. I don't know if I'm live or not. Let me see here. Oh, okay. I am. All right. So let me go in here. Sorry, everybody. This is taking me a little more time than I expected. Mhm. And let's see if this is all working here. Okay. So I'm hoping these are all working now. Go live. Okay. Let me see here. This one is not working. Let's see here. This is not working for whatever reason. My camera is not working with all of them. I apologize. Um, I'm still trying to figure out how these multi-platform things work. So please be patient while I'm doing all that. But you will still get what I'm talking about, even if you can't see me. Hopefully, you can see me in most of the places where I am right now. All right. So, what I am talking about here. Oh, hold on. One more thing here. Um, Okay, so we are going to be talking about body doubling. So, welcome to Topic Tuesday. My name is Jory Houlihan. I'm your guide for the dopamine deprived, and I am an ADHD life coach. I am also a public speaker. I am an educator, an advocate, and now a podcast host with the podcast ADHD and with Jory Houlihan. And so I try to help women, especially late diagnosed women. I myself was diagnosed late, understand how their brains work better so that they can start to learn to work with their ADHD instead of feeling like they're constantly fighting against it. So today we are talking about body doubling. It is something that a lot of you have probably already been doing most of your life. You just didn't realize it until now. So uh it really changed how I did things. I started doing body doubling before I had been diagnosed. And so what is body doubling? Body doubling just simply means you are working near somebody, whether it's virtually or in person, and that's it. You get work done because there's somebody nearby, which seems really strange. I get it, but it is weirdly effective for ADHD brains. And so, and the funny thing is that the person who is near you, even if it's virtual or whatever, like they don't they don't help you, they don't talk to you, they don't, they don't need to know what you're working on. It's just literally just their presence that makes a difference. There is something about that works. um it works on different neurological pathways for us, and we'll get into that in a minute. But think about like how often maybe you've gone to work at a coffee house, for example, right? Coffee houses are a place that a lot of us tend to gravitate to, and we get more work done. Or maybe some of you work in a library. And so that is all body doubling. Even if no one else in that cafe knows what's going on, they're all doing body doubling too if they're working. They just may not realize it. Um, you just get more done rather than when you were just home by yourself, right? Or just doing things on your own. And it isn't some kind of weird personality quirk. It is just how your ADHD brain is telling you. It's telling you something important about how it works, and you are honoring that. So, um, you want to think about the other people or the other person if you're doing it virtually. Um, think of them like an anchor. They help to ground you in the present moment and help you to get started on tasks, follow through on tasks without them having to do anything special, which is really kind of cool, right? And it's sort of like borrowing somebody else's focus. It's like borrowing somebody else's immune system or a nervous system. It just helps us. I wish I could understand exactly how it works because I think it's fascinating that it does. But it is weird. I acknowledge that, but it is very effective. So, why does this work so well? I'm going to give you sort of and I'm going to speak in general terms here because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor. This is just what I know from my own research and my own experience with using this. So, as I have mentioned, people with ADHD, we struggle with sustained attention, we struggle with task initiation, right? And so when somebody else is present, like I said, it activates different neurological pathways than if we were doing the work on our own. And then you get that extra accountability, that external accountability, okay, which if you've heard me talk at all, you know I believe that external accountability is a non negotiable if you have ADHD, because we are not accountable to ourselves. That's a whole other talk, but it gives you some. And what's nice is, especially if you're doing it like in a cafe or something like that, they don't even know they're doing it. So you're getting this accountability and there's no judgment, which we really worry about being judged, even though we are the ones who tend to be the most harsh judge of ourselves. And which leads me to my next point, which is doing this and it being effective for you is not cheating. It isn't being lazy. It isn't that you are too dependent on others. It is just how your brain works. And you, as I said before, you honoring that. And you are setting yourself up for success in a way that is much more effective than if you didn't do it when it is a system that does work for you. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, what this does is people use this to do boring tasks like, data entry or taxes and stuff. They do it if it is complex sometimes because there's just something about it that gets you to focus in. Some people will do it when they're being more creative. Sometimes people will do it to do things that they've been putting off, right? And so understanding why body doubling, why you tend to gravitate towards it, like when do you naturally start looking for company when you're doing a task? For example, you may naturally do that anyway. So that's a question that you can ask yourself in terms of understanding what types of tasks might be better for you doing body doubling than others. And hold on, I have to have notes because otherwise I will go off on tangents. The other way to look at this is, if somebody has bad eyesight, they need glasses, right? And we don't judge them. We don't say, you know what, you are far too dependent on those glasses. You just need to work harder. And yet we do that to ourselves all the time. Okay. Consider body doubling just another type of reading glasses or whatever kind of glasses you may need if you had bad vision. Okay. So think of it that way. All right. So how to use it. So one of the ways that has gotten very popular and is much more accessible is the virtual kind, right? I happen to use a site called FocusMate. I know there are others. I honestly don't remember their names, but you can research them. And I think they all kind of work the same way. You sign up for a time slot. Now with FocusMate, you can do a 25, a 50, or a 75-minute session. I personally believe you should never go more than 50 minutes, personally, for people with ADHD, just because you start to run into burnout mode if you do. But anyway, you pick one of those time slots. They partner you with some other random procrastinator somewhere in the world. I've literally worked with people from all over the world. It's been awesome. And you tell them what you're working on. They tell you what they're working on. In most cases, you mute yourselves and then you just get to work. There's no chit chat. And that's what I think one of the things that makes it as powerful as it is there isn't chit chat most of the time. And then once the session's over, then you can say what you worked on. If you were able to stay focused, they tell you. And if you want to chit chat, then you can. Then nobody cares. But that is basically how it works. And it's awesome. And I have gotten so much done because of that interface. I can't even begin to tell you. Another way you can do body doubling. So if you have kids, you may remember, or maybe you're in this right now, when your kids are really little and they do something called parallel play, which is where they're playing side by side, but they're not actually like even acknowledging the other kids, but they're having the best time, right? So there's an adult version of this, and it's called parallel productivity. And it's for adults, and it's for, you guessed it, productivity. So you can invite your friend over, your sister, whoever, and they can work on what they're working on. You work on what you're working on. They don't have to match in terms of the tasks. And you don't really even acknowledge each other until it's done. Same thing, parallel productivity. You can use it for in the workplace, right? For some people, they may like more busy atmosphere, so they may decide to go sit in a more common area to get work done. Whereas other people may need more quiet, so they may take another coworker who also needs quiet and get a conference room and work in the conference room to get things done. Again, no talking. You just do this. There are some examples of where people will talk. This is the reason I tend to poo-poo the talking. And this is from my own experience with this. I used to be on these calls that we would go on, and it was, we'd all get on the call, and then we would mute on Zoom, and then we would mute ourselves, and then we would, what's the word I'm trying to talk about here? And then we were supposed to make our calls, right? But the problem is that we'd all just start talking about, well, how our weekend was and da 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 da, and then the next thing you know, we got none of that done. And it was a really good way of procrastinating is what it was. So that's the only reason that I tend to hesitate about people wanting to chit chat, because I just worry that will happen, right? And for people with ADHD, we can be chatty Cathys, right? That's part of our hyperactivity. Obviously not for all of us, but for a lot of us it is. And so just be careful of that part of it, okay? And don't forget your family, right? While your kids are doing homework, you can be doing something. My daughter at one point was like, "Hey, Mom, can you read with me tonight?" And I thought she wanted me to read to her. And she's 15 now, but I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." But it wasn't that. It was, no, I have to read for class. So if you're reading next to me, it'll make it easier for me to read. And I was like, she does listen to me. I love it. So anyway, it was great. And I got extra reading time in when I normally don't get that in. So now the last thing I want to talk about is finding your kind of sweet spot in your ideal partner. Not all body doubling is the same, right? If you ask yourself some questions like, do I work better with somebody I know or who's a stranger, right? If it's a stranger, then something like Focusmate may not be ideal for you because you're usually going to be working with somebody you don't know. But if it is with a friend, then you need to find somebody who also wants to do that, which is great. Does it matter if they're working on similar tasks, or should they be different, or does it matter? Do you want check-ins throughout the session, or do you want complete silence? And what time of day works best? And also just remember that, I've talked about this before, our energy is different, right? And so body doubling may look different for you in times of calm, right? Where everything is going well, versus times where maybe, you're stressed out, you got little sleep, your hormones are all over the place, whatever. So just keep in mind, and always, always, always look through all of these things through the lens of curiosity. Okay. Don't ask yourself these questions to judge yourself. Because I know some of you go, well, I really prefer to work with somebody I know. Why don't I like working with strangers? Oh, there's just something wrong with me. That's what we do. We really have to watch the self-talk, okay? Because we are terrible to ourselves sometimes. But anyway, just ask yourself questions about what you like and what you don't like, right? If you are working with somebody in more like maybe you're doing this with your friend over FaceTime or something like that, establish whether or not talking will be going on, and establish specific start and end times just so that everybody's on the same page as far as that is concerned. Okay. So again, body doubling is not it is a little weird that it works so well, but it's just a way of you working with your brain so that you can get things done. And I am 1,000% for it. So let me know in the comments, what kind of thing do you think you might do? Have you ever done body doubling before? Well, how did that feel to you? What was something that maybe surprised you about it? I really love doing it, obviously. So let me know in the chat. I'm going to look in here and see if I can see if there's any questions, etc. Let me see here. I don't see any. Let me see here. Okay. All right. So with that being said, if you want to learn more, this week's podcast is all about body doubling. So you can check that out. And again, it's ADHD and with Jory Houlihan. I will put that, the link is in my bio, so you can check that out. And we're also on YouTube too. So if you prefer to watch it versus listen to it, that's an option. I will not be having Topic Tuesday next week with it being the holiday. There's just too much going on and I won't be able to. But I want to give you some things to think about ahead of time. So next week's podcast is about gratitude. Traditional gratitude practices don't always work well for us because a lot of them depend on consistency, which we love. No, we don't. So I'm going to be talking about gratitude and how you can ADHDify your gratitude practice so that it works for you. Because I really do believe in the power of gratitude. I think gratitude is something that we all need more of, especially in these days where everything just feels like it's on fire. So I want you to start thinking now about ways that you do show gratitude, how you do fit it into your day, if you do. And if not, how you might want to. But I would strongly encourage you to listen to that episode that will come out next Tuesday. Other than that, that is it for this week. I am really happy you're here. If you're new, I'm happy you're here. If you're old, I'm happy you're here. And hopefully this got to everybody that I was hoping it was going to get to. I think I'm missing some people, but it's okay. I'll figure it out. Most people are pretty patient with this stuff, so I appreciate that a lot as well. All right, that's it. So have an amazing week. Have an amazing Thanksgiving if you're in the States. And I will see you all in a couple weeks. All right, have a good one.